It's always a delight when actors play twins in movies. Nick Cage in Adaptation,
To think about the one you love and hold her tight.
Tom Hardy in Legend, Lindsay Lohan in The Parent Trap, which, full disclosure, when I was younger, I totally thought Lohan was two separate actresses.
I mean, come on, get real.
But it's even more fun when you don't know when an actor plays multiple roles in a movie. Get ready for a shock to your system as we break down all the best times actors sneakily played more than one role in some of your favorite films of all time. Ready?
You bet.
Let's begin. Deadpool redefined Ryan Reynolds' career and gave him a second chance at playing a superhero in a hit franchise. The first one was a massive success, so it was a big no duh when Deadpool 2 came around. But this time, Wade Wilson wasn't the only character Ryan Reynolds played. No, unfortunately, he wasn't the Vanisher. That honor went to Brad Pitt. But Reynolds did have a hidden role. He provided the voice for Juggernaut, and once you know that, you can't unhear it. Apparently, Reynolds just initially provided the voice to make things easier with the intention to redub later, but then hearing Reynolds in the part, everyone just decided to keep it. How cool.
I'm gonna rip you in half now.
Great Scott! Did you know that Michael J. Fox played multiple roles in Back to the Future Part 2? Alright, fine, it doesn't take the doc around to figure that one out. The whole McFly household scene in that movie is filled with Michael J. Foxes everywhere, but I think one of them is at least surprising. It's clear in that scene that Fox is playing both Marty McFly and Marty McFly Jr. as they sit around that table eating hydrated pizza, but it might surprise you to know that Fox also plays Marlene, Marty's daughter. All I'm saying is that it's much less clear that it's Fox underneath that makeup than it is for Marty McFly Jr., am I right? Are you watching closely? You'll have to be to find the second role Christian Bale plays in The Prestige, at least the first time you watch it. Spoiler alert for a 15-year-old movie incoming. Christopher Nolan's The Prestige sees two rival magicians try to constantly one-up each other, and while that description sounds like a wacky comedy that Jim Carrey and Steve Carell might do, wait, never mind. It's actually a pretty heavy drama. The twist of the movie is that Christian Bale's Borden has a twin brother who's disguised as Borden's manservant Fallon throughout the movie. It's actually kind of funny. To perform the trick of being in two places at once, Jackman's character has to literally find a legit teleportation clone-making machine invented by David Bowie. Bale just needed a twin. Dormammu, I've come to bargain and...
You've come to die. Your world is now.
Wait, Dormammu, you sound awfully familiar. Why is that? Oh, it's because you're also Benedict Cumberbatch. Yep, in that final scene with the Dark Dimension entity in Doctor Strange, that's just Benedict Cumberbatch talking to himself. It's actually kind of a fun story. Apparently, they had someone else cast for Dormammu, but then Balthazar Krevitswazzle brought forward the idea that he should voice the big bad. The director, Scott Derrickson, thought about it for a bit and then realized how fitting it was that Dormammu looked and sounded like Doctor Strange to signify that Dormammu was shaping himself after the person talking to him. I think that was a very neat idea. This one is a bit strange. It's pretty well known that Warwick Davis plays Professor Flitwick and Griphook in the Harry Potter franchise, at least in the later films. But things were a bit different in the first film. Although Griphook plays a prominent part in the last two movies, the Goblin has a small part in the first film. Here though, it's not Warwick Davis playing the physical role. It's actually Mini-Me actor Vern Troyer. But apparently, because there was a thing about American actors having roles in the first movie, Troyer's voice was dubbed over by Warwick Davis. So even though you hear Warwick Davis's voice coming out of Griphook in Sorcerer's Stone, it's not Davis playing Griphook. But again, we can't be too upset since he gets his chance to physically play Griphook as well as Professor Flitwick again in the future. Alright, this next thing I'm gonna tell you is secret, so you gotta promise me one thing. Don't tell the elf. John Rhys-Davies brought Gimli to life in the Lord of the Rings franchise, giving us a fan-favorite character. Sure, he was probably the least skilled fighter out of Aragorn, Legolas, and himself, but he's still pretty legit. I mean, even though Legolas always killed way more baddies than him, can Legolas say he was played by an actor who had two roles in the franchise? I don't think so. On top of playing Gimli, John Rhys-Davies also voiced Treebeard, the Ent in The Two Towers. I mean, could they have gotten someone else? Probably. But when you have a voice like Davies, you put that anywhere you can.
Tree, root, and twig.
Eddie Murphy has a long tradition of playing multiple roles in his movies to great comedic effect, and one of his all-time classics is Coming to America. So yeah, of course he plays multiple roles in the movie. Yeah, one of them is obvious, with Murphy obviously playing Clarence in The Barbershop. Then something that takes a little more squinting is his role as Randy Watson, the frontman of the soul band Sexual Chocolate. And then the really surprising one is that he also plays the old man Saul, so yeah, he's clearly having a good time. Alright, fine, I know it's pretty obvious that Mike Myers plays a lot of roles in the Austin Powers franchise. He's not actually hiding the fact, but come on! How could I not include Mike Myers on this list? The man needs more love.
Damn it, you are handsome.
Let's just enjoy the fact that every movie in the franchise sees him playing an additional character. In the first movie, he's just 2 roles, Austin Powers and Dr. Evil, while the third one sees him playing 4 roles. Which is your favorite? Yes, there's a lot of love for Dr. Evil, but there's always something about Goldmember that cracks me up. Here's Eddie Murphy again. There's no such thing as too much Eddie Murphy. Okay, maybe there's such a thing as too much 2000s Eddie Murphy, but the 80s, 90s, and current Eddie Murphy? Yeah, can't get enough of that. One of his famous movies is The Nutty Professor, where, obviously, Murphy plays a bunch of roles. It's most apparent in his scenes with his family, where Eddie plays almost every character sitting around that table. But he also plays someone else in the movie. The character of Lance Perkins, the workout coach clearly inspired by Richard Simmons, is also played by Eddie, because of course it is. It's absolutely crazy how popular Boba Fett is after the original Star Wars franchise, given how little he actually did. He just stood around and looked cool for most of it before being eaten. But the character was extremely popular, and a lot of fans know that Jeremy Bulloch provides the physical performance for Boba Fett in the OG series. But here's a fun fact, that's not the only role Bulloch plays in The Empire Strikes Back. He also plays an Imperial officer who escorts Princess Leia and the other rebels to Vader's ship. Since this is Star Wars we're talking about, there's now a whole backstory on his character, and we know now his name is Shekel. I mean, getting to wear an Imperial officer uniform is fun and all, but I still rather wear the Boba Fett armor, wouldn't you? Mary Poppins is a classic, and a lot of its charm obviously comes from Julie Andrews. But also, don't forget about the lovable Dick Van Dyke as Bert. Bert provides some heart and plenty of humor. But in case you've forgotten, Dick Van Dyke plays a second role in the movie as well. He also plays the banker, and it's a completely different look than Bert. And as it turns out, the way Dick Van Dyke tells it, he actually had to pay Walt Disney money in order to play the second part of the banker. Talk about commitment, right? Be excellent to each other. That's the simple mantra that sums up just about everything we love about Bill and Ted. The two lovable dolts have had a few excellent adventures and bogus journeys over the years, and one of them I want to specifically highlight. Although the second film, Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey, may not have been as well received as the first movie, it did have some fun moments. Mainly, after Bill and Ted get sent to hell, there's a scene where Bill comes face to face with his grandma. It's probably one of the scariest scenes in the movie, or maybe I just get freaked out by old ladies holding birthday cake. But anyways, in a fun bit of trivia, Alex Winter also plays his own twisted version of Bill's grandma. I would feel intimidated asking Jack Nicholson to play a goofy role. I don't know why, but it's something Tim Burton obviously didn't mind. In his clever and violent satire, Mars Attacks, Jack Nicholson plays the President of the United States in the type of serious way you'd expect from Jack Nicholson. But then he also plays the goofy and outlandish Art Land in such a wild way it'll make you second guess whether that's actually Jack Nicholson or not. Spoiler alert, they both don't make it out of the movie alive, so I guess that's one thing they have in common. I know it's obvious now, but growing up I had no idea that Jonathan Hyde played both the Hunter Van Pelt and Alan Parrish's father Sam in Jumanji. It makes sense since the theme of the movie is Alan facing his fears and being a man and all that.
You don't cry, alright? You keep your chin up.
So the idea of Hyde playing both his scary father and the scary Hunter, with Alan having to stand up to them both, makes a lot of sense. I don't know, maybe you were distracted by the creepy spiders to notice it was the same actor? Hey, those things were scary, okay? Peter Pan is one of the classic tales that will be retold again and again and again until the year 4065. Hollywood is always looking for ways to tell a different type of Peter Pan story, right? Anyways, building off the theme from the last entry, Jason Isaacs plays both Captain Hook and Mr. Darling in 2003's Peter Pan. Although they look a little similar, their roles are completely different, with Hook being the nightmare version of Wendy's dad. Out of all the Peter Pan adaptations, this one is a fun one. It might be a little hard to recognize him because everyone in Quentin Tarantino's blood-soaked masterpiece Django Unchained is dressed like an Old West cowboy, but there's an actor who actually plays two roles. James Remar plays both Ace Speck in the beginning of the film and Butch Pooch in the later part of the film. Why? Well, you could say the reason is that it's a bit of irony given how Schultz kills Ace but then is killed by Butch, or find a deeper meaning, but I think it's just because Quentin Tarantino likes James Remar and thought, why not? Doug Jones is one of the unsung heroes of Hollywood. He's a fantastic physical performer on par with Andy Serkis, but just doesn't get enough recognition. In Hellboy 2: The Golden Army, we know that Jones provides the bodywork for Abe Sapien, but this isn't his only role. He also plays the Chamberlain as well as the Angel of Death. Again, if you want someone to play a monster or creature on screen, you call Doug Jones immediately. It shouldn't come as a surprise that Hank Azaria plays a few roles in the Night at the Museum Battle of the Smithsonian. After all, the dude voices most of Springfield for The Simpsons, so you know he can handle multiple characters. He's front and center as the big bad in the second film, playing the evil Kamun-Ra.
Now begins the era of Kamun-Ra.
But he also provides the voices for both the Thinker statue and the Abraham Lincoln statue for the film. When you have an accomplished voice actor in your cast, why try to get anyone else? I wonder if they paid him 3 times. Stanley Kubrick wasn't necessarily known for his comedy, but he also gave us one of the most classic comedies of all time with Dr. Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Man, I love that title. If you haven't rewatched this film in a while, what are you waiting for? Go do that! You can see Peter Sellers not only playing the titular Dr. Strangelove, but also play the roles of Group Captain Lionel Mandrake and President Merkin Muffley. Now please, gentlemen, you can't fight in here, this is the war room.
More curiosity for the adventure ahead! Ha!
Mel Brooks has a very unique comedy style. You either think his movies are the funniest things ever, or they're just not for you. I think they're hilarious, and one of his best is Spaceballs, starring Bill Pullman and Rick Moranis. Mel Brooks plays 2 parts in the movie. One is obvious, the other is just slightly less obvious. In the film, he plays President Scroob, as well as the wise and merchandise-loving Yogurt. In a Monty Python movie, you expect for the stars of the famous funny group to play a bunch of roles in the film, and part of the fun is seeing if you can recognize just who plays whom. One of their all-time greats is Monty Python and the Holy Grail, which is probably one of the greatest comedies ever. And if you disagree, there's a bunny I want you to meet. One of the stars is John Cleese, and he's recognizable in a lot of the roles like Lancelot, Tim the Enchanter, and the taunting French guard. But did you know that John Cleese also plays the Black Knight? You never really get to see his face, but I think the fact that it's Cleese under there makes it all the funnier. Alright, unfortunately, we couldn't make this list without including Adam Sandler's, quote, comedy, Jack and Jill.
Nice to meet you!
I don't think it takes a rocket scientist to realize that Adam Sandler plays both Jack and Jill in this, quote, film. But he's not the only one pulling double duty. In one of the many, quote, comedy scenes... Okay, I'll stop that. In one scene, Eugenio Derbez plays Felipe, but he also plays his own grandmother. There, now you know one extra fact about Jack and Jill. The Wizard of Oz gave us one of the most famous villains of all time in The Wicked Witch of the West, and it's such a commanding presence that you might forget the actress, Margaret Hamilton, also played Miss Gulch earlier in the film. Okay, fine, this one is obvious, but I had to include it because the Wicked Witch threatened me and my little dog too if I didn't put her on here.
With poison in it.
Did you know The Adventures of Shark Boy and Lava Girl got a semi-sequel? Yeah, go check out We Can Be Heroes on Netflix. Or don't, do whatever you want, I'm not the boss of you. Anyways, in the OG Shark Boy and Lava Girl, George Lopez plays quite a few roles. He's Mr. Electricidad and Mr. Electric, but also provides the voice of Tobor and the Ice Guardian. Apparently, Robert Rodriguez just kept asking Lopez to play additional characters as production went on, and Lopez agreed. It must be fun to play both a live-action character in a movie and also voice a character in that same movie. That's what happened with Sam Neill in 2018's Peter Rabbit. You can see Sam Neill in all his bearded glory as old Mr. McGregor, but he also provides the voice for the grouchy badger Tommy Brock. Man, how lucky is Sam Neill? He got to say he voiced a badger and played a fun bearded old guy in the same movie. That's the dream right there. Alright, if we all wish really, really, really hard, maybe magically we can will an Austin Powers 4 into existence, and then we can see Mike Myers play like 6 different roles. Come on, it's the exact thing we need in 2021.
Sugar and a waffle? Pipe and a crepe? No? Bong and a blintz?